In 1940, the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. decided that Hitler was going to lose the war and that they should start preparing for the next empire, an American empire. And it was to comprise all of the area that Hitler had coveted, including the United Kingdom, all of North America, New Zealand, Australia, and much of the Southeast Pacific Rim. And they've been working at it ever since. They have linked forces with other organizations since, including the Bilderbergers, a post-war organization in Europe, which is the most secretive and one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful organization in the world today. And then the third, the Trilateral Commission, which was formed after Japan began its ascendancy. And these three have been working together, and I call them in my books the Three Sisters. They are the sort of the root of what I now call cabal, and other people call it the cabal as well. The cabal comprises the banking cartel, the oil cartel, the big transnational corporations, the intelligence agencies, many of them, but including the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and a couple of foreign ones, of the MI6 from the UK and the Mossad from Israel, and a huge slice of the American military. And they are the cabal, and they have been running the United States for the last half century, to the point where presidents have been little more than talking heads, and the Congress hasn't had a clue as to what was going on. After World War II, there was an operation called Operation Paperclip, which was approved by President Truman to bring Nazi scientists to the United States to help, presumably in the Cold War that would ensue. President Truman agreed on the condition that none of the scientists were to have been active members of the Nazi Party. The armed forces who were doing the invitation, the Army in particular, paid no attention to the president. As a former Minister of National Defense, I know how that works. And they recruited the ones they wanted. They gave them new names, new histories, and high-ranking jobs in the United States in the military and civil establishments. They were working on missiles and new weapon systems of various kinds. Well, then after the two crashes at Roswell, two UFO crashes at Roswell on July the 4th, 1947, one of the machines was sufficiently intact to be recovered, and they began back engineering that. Before long, they moved the operation to Nevada. And the president then was Eisenhower, and he wanted to know what they were doing out there, and they wouldn't tell him. So he threatened to send in the First Army from Colorado. And they capitulated and allowed him to send 4 trusted members of the CIA to visit Colorado and see what was going on. Well, what was going on was exactly what they really expected, and that is the back engineering of one of the vehicles from the Roswell area. I don't think there's been a president since, well, actually Truman, who has really been in the loop totally. President Eisenhower vented his frustration in his final speech to the American people at the time he was retiring from public life. He said, "Beware of the military-industrial complex." And the problem is we have paid no attention to him. An eyewitness who had worked in the company of President Eisenhower said what he was really concerned about was that the ET file had fallen into the wrong hands. And that's what he was really concerned about, and I wish he had said it. But that's, I guess, when the cover-up really got underway in earnest. Well, a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. This cabal, their end game, is a world government. They're calling it the New World Order, which is unelected and accountable only to them. That's what they're doing. And they're well on the road to do it. And you know, they were smart. They said, we won't do what Hitler did and try to take over all this world, these countries, by military means. We will do it by using our brains and using the monetary system to crush the various countries to the point where the people will be glad to accept a military government. And we will use trade agreements, which are not really trade agreements, but which are, in effect, transfers of power from the people, the elected people, to the banking cartel and the transnational corporations. And they put a thing in the trade agreements, which is called the dispute settlement mechanism. And it actually works this way, that if any government, like a provincial government in Canada or a state government in the United States, does something that affects the profits or potential profits of a foreign company, they can sue the government of Canada for lost profits or even lost potential profits, can you believe? They have more rights in Canada than Canadian citizens, and of course it works the same way with the United States. It's wrong in principle. Two final words. The reason they don't want us to know what they're doing is because of too many of us knew what they were doing. They might not be able to get away with it. And the reason that you don't read about it is that if you get a copy of Daniel Estulin most recent book, he was the writer of The True Story of the Bilderberger. There are several pages, chapter and verse, that show that every major news outlet in the English-speaking world is controlled by a Bilderberger. Thank you very much.